Greetings, fellow book lovers, and welcome back to Colin's Corner. Today, guys, I'm going to be doing a book review for Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which is the book that my daughter actually picked for me to read. If you guys haven't watched my book shopping with Haley video, where she chose my next read, I will link that video right here. Please check that out. That was such a blast to make, and there will be more of those to come for sure. Now, before we get into the review, we do need to go over the joke from the last video's Comedy with Colin segment. Now, the question from the last segment was, what do you call a girl standing in the middle of a tennis court? The answer? A net. Alrighty, guys, so on with the main show. What is this book about? Are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Dessen hears before the masked abductor knocks him unconscious. Before he awakens to find himself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before a man Jason's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back, my friend." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife. His son was never born. And Jason is not an ordinary college physics professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this life or the other that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how can Jason possibly make it back to the family he loves? The answers lie in a journey more wondrous and horrifying than anything he could have imagined. One that will force him to confront the darkest parts of himself, even as he battles a terrifying, seemingly unbeatable foe. And that brings us to the 2016 sci-fi thriller Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So this is the first sci-fi review I have done on the channel and one of the first sci-fi books that I have read. So as with many thrillers, it's pretty difficult to talk about too much of the plot of the story without giving a lot of spoilers away. But like the summary says, in Dark Matter, we are following a man named Jason Dessen as everything in his life is abruptly stolen from him, and he is fighting to get that back. So this is a breakneck pace in this narrative, and Crouch spends very little time setting the scene. He kind of throws the reader almost directly into the action. There's a little bit in the first chapter of kind of just getting a taste of Jason's home life, and almost like within the first chapter, almost immediately, is when the main plot of the story starts to develop. So Dark Matter gets recommended quite a bit on BookTube, as far as I've seen, in terms of a great place to start with Blake Crouch, and I can certainly understand why. In fact, my friend Theo over at Rekindled Reader did a fantastic video about many different places that you can jump into Blake Crouch. If this review seems interesting to you guys, and Crouch as an author seems like somebody who you might be into, I'm going to go ahead and link Theo's video in the description of this video to give you guys a little bit of an idea of some of his other works. So let's talk about some of the themes that Crouch explores in Dark Matter. The biggest theme that stuck out to me in this book was that of identity. So I'm sure, identity as a theme, I am not unique in being able to resonate with this theme when it's explored. And sometimes it takes some sort of external life event, or sometimes it's even a medium that I'm consuming, whether it be a movie, a song, or a novel in this case. It takes that to kind of jar my thoughts a little bit and kind of think about Colin, think about me. And, Crouch with Dark Matter was certainly successful in getting me to kind of assess where I'm at in life in a healthy way. At the end of the night, when I would close this book, wherever I was, I found myself many times just sitting there thinking about my life, assessing where I'm at, thinking about decisions that I've made in the past, goals that I've set for myself, where the decisions that I made in the past have led me to today, what my goals, if I succeed or fail in them, are going to, have my life looking like 5, 10, even 15 years down the line. And it kind of, it made me think about me. It made me think about my life kind of almost from like an outsider's perspective, like kind of looking at Colin, like what What am I really about? What is my identity? Another theme that Crouch employs here is that of fate. So, this book generated some questions similar to like, what would my life look like if I would have made this decision instead of this one? If I would have chosen this life route instead of this life route? And even down to like seemingly non-important decisions that ended up heavily impacting my life. Like for example, uh, it was a Saturday. I remember I had nothing planned. I was off work. I literally think that I was just going to play video games all day or something. This was 5 years ago now, and a buddy of mine hit me up and asked me if I wanted to go to an event with him. And I was like, sure, I've got nothing going on. Lo and behold, going to this event allowed me to meet the woman that is now my wife. And it seemed like like I could have said no. Had I said no and just stayed at home and played whatever video game I was playing at the time, who knows what my life would have looked like today, and that was 5 years ago. And that simple decision to go and participate in this event that led me to meet my wife made me start to think about other decisions that I made or even didn't make, and what that could have left an impact on in terms of like where my life is today. There's also a strong theme of family explored in Dark Matter. So, in terms of like what family means to a man, what would a man be willing to go through and endure to get his family back if they were taken away from him, if he just lost everything? And as you will find out if you read this book, Jason is put to the test in a variety of ways. And, he fights. He fights for what he wants. He fights for what he believes is right. And it was inspiring. It was scary. It was situations that nobody would ever picture themselves being in, which is kind of the fun part, of fantasy and sci fi. But it really makes you think, like if I were to be put in this situation and it was my daughter and it was my family that I just had stolen from me from, somebody, what would I do? What would I be willing to do to get them back? And as Jason shows in this story, and I would like to think of myself being willing to do anything to get them back. Now, although I was never a stud in science, I've always found science interesting. And, I don't want to go into the exact scientific theories and concepts that Crouch uses to build this narrative for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. And two, I don't know if I am smart enough to do them justice in explanation. But with that being said, Crouch did an absolutely fantastic job of explaining these things in a way that is accessible to someone and doesn't make you feel like you have to have a physics degree to understand where he is going with the story and what concepts he is trying to play on. The concepts in Dark Matter mainly revolve around the themes of alternate realities, which is a theme that is not uncommon to the sci-fi genre as far as I understand. And I believe Crouch does a very good job. I enjoyed his take on the alternate realities. I've read some fantasy sci-fi kind of crossovers with alternate realities that I also enjoyed, and Crouch's stood out as unique to me. And I think he did a really good job crafting his narrative around this idea. The concepts are presented in such an accessible way that I truly believe that anyone from like maybe a high school level on could even like a advanced, maybe middle grade reader, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book for them. But the point is that the concepts are presented in such an accessible way that anybody, I feel like, could pick this book up and not feel intimidated by the science behind it. And that was important to me because one of the things that has not held me back, but kind of made me kick some sci-fi cans down the road a little bit in my reading journey is that I've been concerned about potentially getting into some of these books and not being able to understand the concepts that the narrative is built around because I'm not somebody that excels at science and is well studied in that realm of academics. But rest assured that Crouch has done a very good job of making this book appealing to the masses and able to be understood, whether you have degrees in science or whether you're just somebody that wants to pick up a really fun, fast-paced sci-fi thriller. Now, Crouch's writing style in Dark Matter is, as far as what I've read on the internet and some videos that I've watched, is a point of contention for some people. And I think the reason for that is that it is a little bit unconventional. There's a lot of very short, choppy sentences going on, and even some things that's not utilizing normal conventions, such as like complete paragraphs. However, the way that this book, the tone and the tension in this book, I feel like this writing style lent itself very well to the overall feel that Dark Matter produced, because the short, choppy writing, the kind of disarray, and the not necessarily perfectly grammatically correct structure kind of added to the feeling of chaos. It built tension. These short, choppy sentences felt really weighty, felt really important. And it kind of was synonymous to like almost once the plot kicks in and Jason's like making these decisions, everything feels important. Everything feels like it has to be like this way, or who knows what could happen. And even though, like, over the course of the journey in the book, there's times where Jason is, uncertain, there's always this feeling of tension and there's this feeling of chaotic kind of energy going on. And so this writing style, I think, works really well with Dark Matter. The book is primarily written in the first person perspective. However, there are small sections where Blake does switch perspectives to third person. Now, I haven't read a lot of books that do this. I've kind of been wondering if it's something that, I would jive with if experienced. However, what I will say is that, for the most part, it's really nice to be in the first person narrative, because it kind of adds to like the mystery of what's going on in the book, because we're in Jason's head. So we're in Jason's head, we are feeling Jason's feelings, we are feeling his stress, we are feeling his anger, we are feeling his confusion. And it's great because it kind of makes you feel, for me at least, it made me feel like not only was I right in the mix with Jason in the action, but almost at times like I was Jason. And so I think the first person perspective was a great choice for this. And the times that it does go into third person was also nice, because it kind of gave us just a peek at a little bit of a wider scope of what was going on. And that was also nice, just for a little change of pace. And there wasn't a lot of this, so I don't want you to think that this was like a, every other chapter just switching between first person and third person. It wasn't like that. Um, I don't know exactly how many times it switches, but it wasn't something that was jarring, and it did not ever take me out of the story. So, with that being said, there was one aspect of Dark Matter that did kind of rub me the wrong way, and that is that there were a few scenes in the book that felt a little preachy to me. That felt kind of like the Crouch was trying to hand deliver the moral or the theme to me, and this mainly happened through character dialogue choices, through some of the quotes from the characters in like pivotal moments in the story. And I don't personally feel like it was needed. And I'm the kind of reader that doesn't usually like when the morals or the themes are being hand fed to me from the author, instead of me trying to decipher my own meanings for things throughout the storytelling. And I there was not a lot of this, and it definitely didn't ruin this experience for me. But I do like to be honest, because I didn't love this part of the book. And when it happened, this is the only aspect of the book, and there were just a few times that did this, that kind of took me out of it and had me thinking, like, okay, like, would you really say that in this scenario? Like, would you actually say this poetic line? But again, like I said, it wasn't anything that like ruined this book for me at all. But it is something that did kind of rub against the grain for me in my experience. Overall, what Crouch was able to accomplish in just over 300 pages was pretty incredible. And I will certainly, I'm very high on this book. I will certainly be doing more Crouch in the future. The only other book that I own by Crouch, I got through Book of the Month, is called Upgrade. So that's probably where I'm going to head next. But I know there's a lot of people, I think they call them Crouch potatoes, who are big fans of Blake Crouch. If you're one of them, or if you're somebody that's just well read in Crouch and you think there's something out there that's similar to Dark Matter, that I may like, don't be afraid to leave that down in the comments. I'm very open to recommendations. I really enjoyed myself with Dark Matter. That's going to do it for today's review of Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And now it is time for everybody's favorite part of the video, guys, comedy with Colin. Today's joke: what is the best way to watch a fly fishing tournament? If you think you know the answer, drop it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like. And if you're enjoying the content on the channel so far, please consider subscribing. Any support you guys give me on the channel is greatly appreciated. I hope you guys are all enjoying what you're currently reading right now. And remember, you're always welcome in Colin's Corner.